Hey, you all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from deep in the heart of Texas. More specifically, we are in Houston, Texas. Me and Jen drove in last night and got settled. And today, I wanted to come out to what I feel is one of the most amazing attractions here in Houston. I was here for the first time about 4 years ago, and it absolutely blew my mind. So I wanted to see kind of what had changed, what updates had done, what new exhibits they have here at the National Museum of Funeral History. It's a pretty much all-encompassing museum dealing with the funeral industry, people's traditions towards funerals and burying and honoring their lost loved ones. So please follow me. Okay, we entered here through the gift shop, but we're going to go ahead into the museum. $15 admission. You get a token here to enter the turnstile. So as we enter the presidential funeral section. Now this hearse here has held two deceased presidents, both President Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford, as they were being transported through California. Here we have items from the funerals of George and Barbara Bush. That's George H.W. Bush, the original Bush. We have the card from their funerals, items used during the funeral. Yeah, there's part of the guest book for Barbara Bush. Has the pearls, the famous pearls that Barbara Bush would always wear. And then George H.W. Bush apparently always liked to wear goofy socks. Here's a pair of George H.W. Bush goofy socks. So there was a train procession carrying the body of George H.W. Bush as it traveled to from Spring, Texas, here above Houston, all the way to College Station. I guess it's showing the procession here on this TV monitor, while you can watch it actually progress. Yeah, as it shows video of people waving at the train, taking pictures as it passed through. This presidential seal here was actually attached to the last car of the train during the funeral procession. And then we have a model here of the train that took George H.W. Bush's body. It says George Bush 41 there on the engine. And then if you look over here, you can see his flag-draped coffin there in the train. Some Gerald Ford funeral items. This is the rounds of ammo used for the 21 gun salute at Gerald Ford's funeral. So wreath from Yale presented at his funeral. Some items not only from Billy Graham's funeral, but some of his personal effects as well. They have one of his Bibles, said glasses there worn by Billy Graham. Items from other presidential funerals. Again, they have like a lot of like the programs and papers that were distributed at the funerals. And there is I remember when Nixon died. There's a newspaper headline, Nixon dies. At Lyndon B. Johnson. And at Franklin Roosevelt dies suddenly. Then the announcement that President McKinley is dead. Look at how this newspaper is laid out completely different. It's really interesting. The newspapers of the time. It says President McKinley is dead. The end came at 2:15 a.m. Strong drugs were administered to keep him alive, but all the skill of doctors and surgeons failed to rally the illustrious patient. It's a completely interesting, just kind of like a weird work of art. These old newspaper headlines. How it's like, it's not just written there. It's like strong graphic design there. Oh, actually, there's like little notes there. President McKinley is dead. President McKinley is dead. So we come over here towards Abe Lincoln's funeral. See that the museum's actually collecting different pennies. I guess they want a penny from every different version of the Lincoln penny here. They are missing, I guess, some of the harder to find ones. The funny thing is I've probably had all these. I just smashed them. Just smashed them into pressed pennies. Items here from Lincoln's funeral. This is a replica. Well, not a replica, but the same type of gun that would have been used. Always kind of shocks me to see how tiny the little gun is, the little Derringer. Just shot that one little pellet. I guess it was from very close range. And here we have a replica of Lincoln's coffin there. See Lincoln laid to rest, being watched over by a Union soldier. This is the honor guard. Much like George H.W. Bush, Abraham Lincoln's body went on a train ride. Although I think his train... Okay, yeah, you can actually see his train traveled... traveled all the way from Washington, D.C. back to his home of Illinois. See here where the train stops. They unload the casket there and load it into the horse-drawn hearse. And obviously this isn't the actual casket, but this is the same exact model that Ronald Reagan was buried in. This one over here is very similar. This is, but this was the same model used for John F. Kennedy. Now this is an absolutely mind-blowing artifact. This right here is the actual eternal flame from JFK's gravesite. At his gravesite, they have an eternal burning flame that has a continuous flow of gas that keeps the flame burning at all times. Now, apparently they have replaced the mechanism over the years. This was the mechanism used from 1967 to 1998, when I guess they replaced it with a new mechanism. That light bulb there, I think that's just for effect. Originally, they would have like an actual flame coming out there. But that's amazing. People from all over America, travel to Washington, D.C. to see the grave of JFK, to see the eternal flame, to pay their respects to John F. Kennedy, and see this right here, this eternal flame that now rests here in Houston at the National Funeral Museum. Now, of course, this is a museum of funeral history, so they're going to talk primarily about funerals, which can be some dark subject matter. But here we get to talk about a birthday for Ronald Reagan. He turned 100 years old. Actually, he didn't, because he was dead. But if he was alive, he would have turned 100 years old. They threw the birthday party without him in remembrance of him. Here we've got a couple of pieces of confetti that were shot off at the birthday party with a giant birthday cake. This all occurred in 2011. And there are some actual cupcakes. Ronald Reagan, 100th birthday cupcakes right there. And don't forget our first president, George Washington. That's him right there. And they do have a copy of his funeral elegy here. Here's the funeral procession of JFK and the iconic image that was burned into America's conscious. You see little JFK Jr. there saluting his dad as he passes by. Newspaper announcing the death of former President Truman. Luckily, they didn't accidentally announce the death of Dewey. And this embalming machine actually used to embalm Harry Truman. It's an exhibit on coffin salesmen. This is like a briefcase. You could open it up and show people the different linings. Let them feel what the inside of their coffin is going to feel like. Of course, sell the different handles and emblems that would be on the coffin. I guess these are different types of wood samples, so you know what type of wood your coffin will be made out of. And like little miniature coffins, so you can kind of give people, carry this around, show people. Obviously you can't just bring a coffin around and let people, carrying a bunch of coffins around very difficult. So you can carry around these little miniature coffins and let people look at them and decide what they want. This little miniature coffin here shows how it would be lowered into a burial vault. Here's an exhibit on the making of caskets. You see the casket shop and the fine woodworking that goes into making a casket. This here is the final casket. It was created by the Marcellus Casket Factory, which closed in 2003. Now this is probably the saddest story in this whole museum. This is the casket for 3. You can see 3 people could actually fit in this casket. 2 adults, 1 child. And now the story is that a husband and wife lost their young child and were very distraught, obviously grieving intensely. So they made a plan where the husband and wife would, by various methods, make themselves not alive anymore on purpose, and then they would all 3 be buried together. They would disinter the child, place all 3 of them in here, and have them all buried together. However, and fortunately, the grieving couple did come to their senses and change their mind. And the funny thing is, if there's anything funny about this story, it's that after the husband died of natural causes, the reason the story was finally revealed to be true was that the wife called the casket company and asked for a refund, explaining that they had a change of plans and they didn't want this. They did not want this this casket anymore because their pact was no longer valid. And the company explained that in the time that had passed, they had changed owners 2 different times and had no way of reimbursing her for the money. So I guess this could have ended worse. This could be in the ground with 3 people in it, but plans change. On a somewhat lighter note, here is the money casket. This is all actual money embedded in the casket. You see the $50 bill there, perfectly preserved. And apparently this was created by a man in the acrylic industry who was trying to promote the idea of preserving items in acrylic. It would use this kind of as a showpiece. So no one was ever buried in this. It was just meant for show, to show off, to be a massive conversation piece. Now this exhibit here has different patented coffins. Now, I admit I have trouble with the verbiage sometimes. I think I've been using coffin and casket, both the words. My understanding is, and I probably have misspoke in this video multiple times, the coffin is when it is shaped kind of like in a shape where it kind of bows out in the middle. These 2 here are caskets because they're square. So I will try to keep it straight for the rest of the video, but I'm sure that I've messed up already. But yeah, these are different patents of caskets, different styles. The little miniature, I'm sorry, coffins. I've already messed up. A little miniature coffin there. This one's got like a viewing window, so you can actually see the deceased person when they are closed inside. Now this one's interesting. It's actually meant so you can see more of the person inside. So normally you close the coffin and you can only see the very top of the person looking down, but this has these cuts in it, which are in the lid that close down, so you can actually see the person in a side view while they're on display. It's a wooden ventilated coffin. It's actually ventilated to prevent gases from the decomposing body from building up, so it actually lets out the gases to prevent stinkage. Yeah, this one here has a lot of glass on it, so you can almost see the entire person inside when the lid's closed. Afraid of being buried alive? I know I am. These are different patents of different ways that people who have been buried alive. So the casket or coffin is designed so that the person in the ground can notify the people above ground that they are still alive. Here's like this whole cranking mechanism. So if the person wakes up, they can just turn this crank, and if you see that turning, you know the person in the ground is alive. Oh my god! You know the fact that these elaborate inventions to be built shows that it actually was a real legitimate problem, people being buried in the ground. I did mention I wanted to see what they had added to the museum in the past 4 years, and it does appear there is quite a bit of new exhibits here. Here is an exhibit on jazz funerals in New Orleans, especially. They're very celebratory with death. Death, obviously is sad, but you see it more as a celebration of life, where they will march people, especially musicians, down the street while they perform in jubilation. You can see the turning there in the middle with those New Orleans street signs. I don't know. I struggle with thinking of death. Like, the idea absolutely terrifies me. So I can really appreciate when people can handle it in a more celebratory way, honoring the life of the person, and not just coming completely buried in sorrow. Some of the instruments that would be used in a jazz funeral: the clarinet, the trombone, the tuba. It's like a traditional Mardi Gras Indian costume. It says that the gentleman that wore this in the parades actually did work in a funeral home. Quite the collection of hearses back here. See, starting of course with the horse-drawn hearses. Oh wow, yeah, some of these are just incredibly beautiful and ornate. And some of them are a little more simple here. That's basically a casket with wheels. It's a 1940 LaSalle touring sedan. Now this is not a hearse, but it would be used, this individual car was used in funeral processions. It was owned by the funeral home. Now this is actual hearse here. It's the compartment in the back used for bodies. This is a Cadillac hearse. I think Cadillac does make a lot of hearses. Yeah, these are really, really interesting, really beautiful, beautiful cars. Look at the backs of the hearse here. You have this is like a temporary casket where they would place people that had ventilation, so they could move them to a more permanent location. Yeah, see, these have the full caskets in the back. This one's empty here, so you can kind of see all the little interlocking parts that can keep the casket in place. So over here talks about the funerals that occurred for the firemen that responded and were killed in the 9/11 attacks. There's an actual piece of a fire truck here that was destroyed on the morning of 9/11. You can see it being pulled out of the wreckage there. This is a glass casket. It said that these ended up not being commonly used because they had a problem with cracking when they were lowered into the vaults. This hearse here from 1916, you can see kind of how it in the back kind of looks like the old horse-drawn hearses, but in the front you have the automobile. As we go along the back here, oh yeah, look at that casket there. Now this is remarkable. This is the only vehicle of its kind in existence ever made, a 1916 funeral bus. Now the idea here is Funeral processions are long. You have a bunch of vehicles all following in a long line, slowing down traffic. So the funeral bus was designed so that everyone involved in the funeral could fit inside the body, the pallbearers, the mourners. So if you look here, let's see, the drivers, the passenger can sit in there. You put the casket in here. I guess there's room for 2 caskets in case 2 people pass on. And then over here, you can have the mourners in the back. So everyone piles in and heads to the cemetery. But it's saying that this was not used for long because apparently it was very heavy. And during a funeral, it was going uphill in a cemetery, and the entire thing tipped over. The caskets fell out, and the funeral homeowner was so embarrassed that he never used it again, and it was the permanent retirement of the first ever funeral bus. This might be my favorite. It's a 1921 hearse. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see how it's made out of the carved wood there. It's almost like curtains carved out of wood. Of course, if things are snowy, you may need a hearse sleigh. This is from the 1800s. Be horse-drawn sleigh here, so you can, I guess, sing jingle bells on the way to the cemetery. This is the cruciform casket. This was the early 1900s. It's actually all fuzzy. See how fuzzy that is? And it actually has the shape of the cross built in. Here's the Thanks for the Memories section. This is a collection of funeral cards of famous people. And you see right in the front we have Charlie Daniels. Charlie Daniels' funeral card. These are the cards they would hand out. You attend the funeral, they give these out to everyone who attends. And then there's the fiddle there. Of course, Charlie Daniels beat the devil in a fiddle competition. We have a Wizard of Oz section over here. And look at this. Meinhardt Robb, the coroner from Wizard of Oz. Now, I think the connection here is that in the film Wizard of Oz, there is only one person that is a funeral worker, and that is the coroner. And the famous proclamation from that film. As coroner, I must aver, I've thoroughly examined her, and she's not only merely dead, she's really most sincerely dead. Is there a more legendary line in Hollywood history? Now here's something I did not know about Meinhardt Robb, is that he was the original Little Oscar mascot for Oscar Mayer. Now, I remember reading about this at the Henry Ford Museum, about a different actor portraying Little Oscar, who was the original driver of the Wienermobile, who traveled around. It was a little person that dressed as a chef. Now, Meinhardt Robb actually retired from that and actually passed the mantle of Little Oscar on. So the other Little Oscar was actually a person that he had mentored, another little person. So I did not know Meinhardt Robb was the original Little Oscar. Different sports stars here with their memorial cards. There's the memorial card of Mickey Mantle. You have an immense collection here, different people. There's Martin Luther King Jr.'s memorial card from his funeral. Tom Clancy, Ray Bradbury. There's Billy Graham. Bob Evans, the founder of the Bob Evans restaurants. Arch West, who helped invent the Dorito. And I love this, amongst all these other celebrities, one of the largest sections here dedicated to Paul Bearer, the professional wrestling manager. His real name was William Moody. And you see some of his cards and action figures, and of course his memorial card. Look at his memorial card, actually has him in character. Rest in peace, Paul Bearer, on his memorial card. Now, the thing is, Paul Bearer actually was a funeral director. He played an evil funeral director in wrestling, but in real life, he was a funeral director, and he always kept his license, his funeral directing license, in case things didn't work out in wrestling, even as he, got very, very famous. And from what I've understood, I've talked to people at other funeral museums that he's actually pretty well regarded in the funeral industry, kind of seen as a celebrity amongst his peers. Oh, yes! Jim Henson, have Roy Rogers, have Farrah Fawcett there. Memorial cards from the crew of the Columbia shuttle disaster. This is very interesting. Leroy Cooper, astronaut. James Doohan, who was in Star Trek, and Gene Roddenberry, the brain behind Star Trek. They were honored by having their cremated remains blasted into space. This is Celestis, a service which puts remains in these little capsules here on a rocket, shoots them into space, where they return to Earth and are given to the family members so that their remains touch space before returning to Earth. Oh, here we talk about the 27 Club, a infamous club of people that passed away at the age of 27. Some people feel it as a curse that these different musicians die at that young age. Of course, a lot of them, do lead what you would call a rock and roll lifestyle. We have Amy Winehouse, one of the more recent inductions. Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, the original member of the 27 Club, Robert Johnson, who allegedly sold his soul to the devil to create blues music. Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, and Jim Morrison. This old-timey TV displays famous animals, talking about when they passed away. Golden Cloud, Secretariat. Yeah, these are animal celebrities. Some of them, Higgins. Oh, Higgins was the name of Benji. And that's one thing, when you talk about funerals, one of the things about animal celebrities, you can actually taxidermy them and put them in museums. Oh, Bamboo Harvester, that was the real name of Mr. Ed. Next to the TV here, you have this delicious looking TV dinner. Looks like we're having Salisbury steak tonight. It talks a little bit about Snow White. See about 6 to 8 dwarves down there. And this is the Snow White casket. It was designed during the height of popularity of the movie. A glass casket, much like Snow White sat in. It says that this was exhibited at a funeral trade show, but never, no one was ever buried in one. It says this may be the only one in existence. You have Robin Williams' funeral card next to a pair of shoes he wore in the movie RV. It is in the news. I guess these are famous newscasters, news figures that have passed away. Different Wild West stars that passed away. Not only do they have Marilyn Monroe's memorial card, they also have the front of her tomb, and it says we're allowed to touch it. And I've been to the actual tomb in Hollywood, and it is a tradition for people they put lipstick on and they kiss the tomb. It's all covered in kisses. And it says because of that, they replace it actually quite often because it gets worn down by all the touching and kissing. And you look closely, you can see it still has some kiss marks on it. Those are real kisses made by Marilyn Monroe fans. Billy Mays. Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's. Here's the famous last word game where we got to try to guess the last words of a celebrity. Here is Rodney Dangerfield. What did he say? There goes the neighborhood. Excuse me for not standing up. Sure, now you pay me respect. Got anything to stop this coffin? He's a funny guy. These are all funny epitaphs. Let's see. Excuse me for not standing up. Oh, there goes the neighborhood. Suspense and thrillers. Some of the famous horror movie actors that have passed away over the years. Here's an exhibit on cremation. Now, because people can vote with their coins on whether or not they want to be buried or cremated. It seems like there's a clear winner there. Almost twice as many people want to be cremated. I think maybe the tide is shifting. I think in the past people wanted to be buried. Now people are changing their mind. I guess, I don't know, is cremation cheaper? Are people just afraid of the idea of being put in a box? The claustrophobia kicking in? As far as me, I honestly have not given this a lot of thought. Like I said before, maybe I don't have a very healthy view of death. I'm kind of terrified of dying, so I haven't really thought about what's going to happen to me when I die. I know that's terrible to say, and that I need to figure that out for my loved ones. I guess they can just do what they want. If they want to burn me, burn me. If they want to put me in a box, put me in a box. If they want to just ghost me and leave my body at the coroner's office, that's okay too. So this is a replica of America's first crematory. I guess this part here is referred to as the iron cradle. And the body would be prepared. Apparently they would try to remove all foreign matter, wrap it in a cloth, and place it in the chamber there, where it is reduced to a pile of ashes. Talks about America's early crematories. And look, down here is a Lego replica of the Missouri crematory. This is a 1906 crematorium door from New Jersey. So that's the door where they close the chamber where the bodies turn to ashes. Just imagine how many remains passed through that door. Here we have the modern crematory practices. Okay, so it's just like the cardboard box here. You're basically placed in a cardboard box because it's easy to burn. And it says that's a pacemaker there. It says these have to be removed because they can actually explode when subjected to the heat of the crematory machine. So yeah, I guess the body slid there, and the ashes collected down here. Oh wow. Oh, okay, yeah, this is where you set the temperatures. Oh yeah, I guess it would take a knowledgeable person to operate this and to get everything just right. Delicate work. There's a broom and a hoe to clean out the remains from the crematory. Okay, so they use a magnet to pick up any loose pieces of metal that might be left behind. Shows here, I guess these are metal replacement body parts that wouldn't necessarily burn in the cremation process. That's a stainless steel back brace, so that would be screwed into someone's spine. A hip replacement. So yeah, they would have to collect they use the magnet to collect these from the remains. And this shows how much the average amount of remains. So a normal-sized human being produces about 7 or 10 pounds of ashes. The rest of you, I guess, just lost to the wind. These are the temporary urns. This is where they just throw you while they're looking for something fancier. There are books on cremation here. I like the cremationist newsletter known as The Urn, devoted to the interests of cremation. There's an exhibit on urns through time, all the different styles of urns and how the design has changed over time. It's from the early 1900s there. You can see this is kind of the traditional urn shape. That's what I think of when I think of an urn. Yeah, I've seen the square box before. I think those are more popular in more modern times. This one here looks exactly like the one that pallbearer would use when he was managing the Undertaker. Here's a very ornate urn where it's like a sculpture with dolphins with your remains inside. Here's an urn that was retrieved from a basement during Hurricane, or after Hurricane Harvey flooded Houston. This is Heidi Hatchery, who actually creates portraits out of remains. I guess that's another way to remember your loved ones. Here's the future of cremation. It shows they can actually make diamonds using human remains as a way to remember your loved ones. This is glass that incorporates human remains. Here are eco urns. This is, I guess, for water burial. I guess you can sink this urn to bury someone in a safe way in water. I guess the wooden urn, that would decompose itself over time. This one is, I guess, designed for scattering. Shows how it coming off the top, almost like those handheld fireworks. And this is cool here, the living urn, where a tree actually grows from your remains. I kind of like that. I think I might be leaning in this direction as far as what happens to me when I die. Now, these are donors to the museum. You see the different urns there with names on it. Now, it does say that there's no actual human remains in this wall, so it is just urns. Yeah, some of these are not. These are just like names of businesses that have donated, but they've done it in the form of, commemorative urns. So you can have an urn placed with your name on it here at the Funeral Museum, and there's open spots too. It's $1,500 to run out of space to have your urn put in there with no remains. And it is kind of hard to talk about funerals and preserving of bodies without looking into ancient Egypt. Here of the history of embalming from some of those famous embalmers of all time, the ancient Egyptians. It's a very shiny sarcophagus here. And we see the embalming process of the creation of the mummy. That is a spooky mummy there. Look at him. And this is pretty interesting. I did not realize this, but apparently embalming became popular in the United States during the Civil War. It was Dr. Thomas Holmes, was known as the father of American embalming, who would embalm the soldiers, who uses processes to embalm soldiers so that they could safely be sent home. Once they're far away home fighting and they die, he wanted to be able to get them home embalmed so their family could see them one last time. And you see the Civil War embalming process taking place right here. The early embalming here, a collection of the different fluids used in the embalming process, and it looks so complicated. It's not like there's just one big jug of fluid they use for everything. Each one of these does something different, like Lanisol, oil emulsion, necrocide, cavity fluid, modifier. Yeah, it seems like you almost have to be a chemist of sorts to embalm a body. This is an icebox casket, so I guess you could use it to put ice in there and keep a body cold until it could be dealt with, so it wouldn't start that decomposition process. Oh yeah, you can see advertised there for cold air ice caskets. And then this is a cooling board where you can lay someone flat out on there to help cool them down, keep them fresh. See the different tools here used in the process. All the different tubes to insert into the body. A very involved process. These different embalming machines. And here's the embalming room. That glass slab that you'd lay the body at. The different tubes, different implements that you would insert into different crevasses. The skeletons watching the entire process. And this is funeral clothing, where it is looks like normal clothing, but it's actually built to be able to put on a body more easy. So usually they do not have backs on them, or the backs are wide open, so you can kind of fold it around the body because no one sees the back because you're laying down. Into the mourning exhibit, the process of grieving a loved one. You can see the mirror there covered up with a black cloth. The body laid out here for people to pay their respects. These are mourning wreaths, which would actually be made out of the deceased person's hair. And it does seem that the hair was very important in the mourning process, especially in the 19th century. These are different ways to carry around the hair, different lockets, bracelets actually made out of the hair. There's like a framed lock of hair. See the child's coffin there. Actually has a removable door where you could view the child through the glass. But once the viewing was done, people were done looking, you could put the door over top and close it off. And this is a mourning clock. It was specifically dedicated to a person that died and placed in the home. This one actually has a painting of the gravestone of the deceased. Ribbons like this would be hung on the door of a house that is mourning. So they're always wearing the black clothes while they're in the mourning process. These are different mourning badges that you would wear, letting people know that you were mourning. It's the pallbearer's gloves there. The mourning gowns worn by the females in mourning. These are the 16th and 19th century mourning paintings. It said an artist would actually come in when someone was recently deceased and paint a picture of them. They would either paint a picture of them in their current state of being deceased, or they could, try to convert it into a more lifelike pose. And here we have the post-mortem photography, where it was very common to take pictures of people who were deceased, and often that would be the first and last picture that would ever be taken of you. You can see here, this shows the process where they actually have a special chair that holds a corpse in place so it can be photographed. Yeah, apparently it was harder to take pictures of living people because they did move. It said that the subject had to sit still for 20 seconds in order to take the photo. So in some ways, taking pictures of deceased people was easier than live people. These are all tin-type photos of deceased people. That's actually a photo of Abraham Lincoln in his casket. We saw the wax figure earlier in that same pose, and here they have it blown up so you can see it better. Yeah, these are all different tin types of deceased people. They have expanded so you can see them better. Talks here about how many pictures are very difficult to determine if the people in the photo are alive or deceased. It says all these photos here have been alleged to be of deceased people, but none of these can be confirmed. So it asks you to try to figure out if the person in the photo is alive or dead. Or maybe some people in the photo are alive and others are dead. Like, identify the dead person in the photo. And here's a replica of the headrest that could be used to take photos of the deceased. It did say that they actually did use this on living people as well, because it was just easier to get them to stay in place if they used the headrest. So we are actually allowed to it's just a Kodak selfie spot where we can pose in the chair here. It's actually kind of relaxing. And this is called the flower car here. It almost kind of looks like a truck where you could like put stuff in the back here, but then there's like a secret compartment where you would put the casket. Gonna head into the International Hall. Some of the funeral customs in other countries. This is a Japanese ceremonial hearse. Actually pretty amazing. The intricate design there. Here's a Day of the Dead exhibit. Again, another celebration that is a more healthy way of dealing with death, much like the jazz funerals. It's like a celebration of life, a celebration of death in a way. And oh, you see here the spooky skeleton here knocking on the door. So we can see the Day of the Dead celebration occurring inside. Yeah, death death is definitely at the door there. You can see the shrine here with food and liquor. It's like an altar here. And you see the little cemetery back here behind the Day of the Dead house. Graves adorned with flowers.
And my grandchildren sit around my tomb and pray for the salvation of my soul.
This hearse here was actually used to carry the body of Princess Grace of Monaco, 1982, during her funeral. And this is an 1850s German horse-drawn hearse. And again, talk about turning death into a celebration. These are the famous coffins of Ghana, where they actually are designed like a specific item that you can be buried in. So everything you're looking at here is a casket, is a place to put human remains. I guess they can be customized to the person, maybe something that they liked in life. Look at this one here. It's like a giant clove of garlic. You would like open up, maybe a different type of plant, kind of looks like garlic to me, but you'd open that up and close it. You have a boat motor, maybe someone who loved boating in life. I don't even know how you put a body in there. I guess some of these seem very small, but I mean, you tight quarters. That's a Yamaha motor. Fish over here. Seems like we got a lot of sea creatures. The big crab back there. The lobster. This is a chicken or rooster. The leopard. Bull. It's got a little miniature car. You'd be buried in an airplane, in a passenger jet. The bald eagle. And then what's this other? Oh, this one's like a gondola. Oh, it says fishing canoe. So like a canoe there. Yeah, I love these. I love how ornate they are. I love how celebratory they are. I love how other cultures are not afraid to turn death into a celebration, turn death into a way of celebrating a person's life. Because that's the thing. Everybody dies. Everybody dies. Not every man lives, but every man dies. And it is inevitable. So why not? Why not celebrate the life instead? Well, you can. It doesn't have to be instead. I think you can celebrate the life while mourning the loss. Because of course, when people die, we miss them. We wish they didn't die, but at the same time, we want to honor the person they were and the life that they lived. It says Redinger, Undertaker, and Hardware. I mean, why limit yourself to one profession? And why not advertise your hardware business while you're toting around dead bodies? And it is a museum of funerals, so why not? Why not discuss one of the most famous funerals of all, the funeral of Jesus? Through the tomb there. This actually takes us into an exhibit of the Shroud of Turin, Now this is actually not the original Shroud of Turin, obviously, but a certified replica. There's only a number of certified replicas out there. Let's see if we can. Yeah, we can see the face there. This, the Shroud of Turin, although it is controversial, not everyone has the same feelings on it. But the belief by many is that it was the shroud that Jesus' body was wrapped in when he passed away, and that it left the markings of his face. You can see his back there, the scars. This would be the back half, and then the front half there. You can see the front of his face, the back of his head there. And so I guess the idea is that when he ascended to heaven, his body left this dimension, that it left imprints on the shroud. I know that some testing has shown that many people believe it to be a very early form of a photograph, but it's all up to the interpretation of the individual to decide what they think the Shroud of Turin really is. Over here, it's the helmet of thorns. I've heard of the crown of thorns. This one is even more brutal, like a whole helmet of thorns. We have some crucifixion nails there as well. Roman flagrums. These would be used to flagellate someone or whip them. Jesus was whipped by Roman soldiers. So this figure is very interesting. It's called the Man of the Shroud. So this is basically a recreation of the imprint on the shroud. So they replicated what the man that was wrapped in that shroud would have looked like. The injuries, the spear in the side, the crucifixion marks. There's actually a lot of little pock marks all over his body. I don't know if that's from the flagellation. And then the hole in the foot there. So yeah, very, very fascinating. They actually have a fairly expansive exhibit on the lives and deaths of the popes. Shows some of the furniture and clothing of the various popes here. Very elaborate throne and gown there. Over here, the more simple popal outfit. Here are the different colors of skull caps worn by the clergy. Now the white is for the Pope. Only the Pope wears a white hat. Red is for cardinals. This pink is for patriarchs, archbishops, and bishops. And black is priests and deacons can wear this. But only the Pope can wear the white skull cap. I guess those closest to the Pope, his attendants and household, are known as the papal gentlemen. Here is the official outfit of the papal gentleman. Other members of the Pope's crew are the Sederi Pontifical. Now their job is to carry the Pope, whether he be alive or dead. When he's alive, they carry him around on his throne, and when he's dead, they carry his dead body around on a slab. Here are the papal vestments here, the different pieces of clothing worn by the actual Pope himself. And I don't think this is a specific Pope. I think this is just a generic Pope. Now we enter the death of a Pope. Here's the Pope's funeral. You see the Pope laid out there being guarded by the Swiss guard who guard the Pope's body. So apparently the customs when the Pope first dies is they seal off his apartment using the wax seals and the ribbon. They take the silver hammer and destroy the Pope's ring. And apparently they used to destroy the ring with the hammer, and then they would hit the Pope in the head with the hammer to make sure he was dead. It says that apparently that tradition fell out of favor because I get, if he's not dead, then they just killed the Pope. See the Pope here being placed in his coffin. Here's a papal coffin. It has kind of a unique shape to it. It's kind of tapered at the bottom, but wide at the top. And it's not that fancy, given how lavishly the Pope lives. It's a pretty simple coffin. And here is a replica of the tomb of Pope John Paul II. We also have an exhibit here on the making of a saint, a process which goes into the creation of an actual saint. It says this sash here was worn by Pope John Paul II. And here's the history of the motorized Pope-mobile. The vehicle that the Pope rides in, of course, the Pope-mobile, like Batman rides in the Batmobile, the Pope rides in the Pope-mobile. You can see him there waving to everyone. Now, I think later they would, have a bulletproof Pope-mobile so that he was safe from bullets. I think that may be my favorite version of the Pope-mobile there. And now it's time to exit through the gift shop. You can get yourself a National Museum of Funeral History flask to take to those difficult funerals. And they sell these grilling aprons where you can refer to yourself as the cremator as you grill your grill steaks for your family. And a lot of different skulls here, some Day of the Dead stuff. Oh yeah, these are really cool. They have furry bones here. Little skull-faced, adorable creatures. A little whale there. Little fish man. Oh, this is a goldfish. They got some different t-shirts here. Cremation shirt. This one's pretty cool. I might get this one. Oh, these are little coffin USB keys. They've got urns as well. And some, M-balm chapstick. M-balm, like lip balm, but it's M-balm. The National Museum of Funeral History, an absolutely amazing place. One of my favorite museums in the country. You're going to see so much information, every bit of the funeral process discussed in great detail there. And I'm actually surprised how much they've added since the last time I've been here. Like I said, I think it's been about 4 years. They had a bunch of brand new exhibits and displays. So it looks like the museum is constantly growing. The lady there also said that they have a lot of events. They do car shows as well. So definitely check this out if you are in the Houston area, because it really is an amazing place to see. Now, I'm going to be here in Houston the next few days. Me and Jen are going to be hanging out here. She decided to take today as a rest day, but we're hopefully going to be doing some fun stuff this week, so stay tuned for that. If you guys like this channel, consider subscribing. I travel around the country. I film roadside attractions, amusement parks, museums, haunted houses, and other fun random stuff. If you'd like to help out the channel, consider contributing to Patreon. $3 or more get you a postcard once a month from me to you. We also, down in the Etsy shop, have a lot of stuff for sale. Enamel pins, pressed pennies, Carpetbagger motel key fobs, stickers, other fun stuff. And if you'd like to receive a personalized message from me, a cameo, if you will, all the information is in the description of this video for all those things. And all those things help keep this train on the track, this boat in the water, and this dirigible in the air. Until next time, my friends, this one's in the bag.